Imagine that, on an ordinary day, that special person simply leaves, leaving behind only a letter. How would you react? Have you ever wondered what you would do if a single message could completely change the course of your life? Maybe you've gone through something similar. An unexpected farewell, an unspoken word, a secret revealed too late. But what if the pain you're feeling now is actually the beginning of something much bigger? Could this letter be the key to a destiny you never imagined? If you believe that love and suffering go hand in hand, but that somehow there is always light at the end of the tunnel, then you're in the right place. Let's unravel this story together and discover how a simple letter can change everything.
Alexander was alone at home, surrounded by a silence that seemed to echo his insecurities. The sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting dancing shadows on the furniture. Every corner of the room brought back memories of Stella, the smell of the coffee she used to make in the morning, the laughter that brightened gray days, and the little details that made everyday life special. He felt lost without her, like a boat adrift in a sea of uncertainties. With a deep sigh, he got up from the couch and began rummaging through some boxes stacked in a corner. It was an attempt to find something that would make him feel closer to her, a fragment of the past that could warm his heart. That's when he spotted a book Stella used to read. The title, The Art of Being Free, made his chest tighten. He had always wondered what those pages meant to her. As he opened the book, a yellowed piece of paper fell to the floor. Curious, Alexander bent down and picked up the letter. His eyes quickly scanned the words written in delicate handwriting. "My dear Alexander," the letter began. He felt his heart race as he delved into the revelations contained therein. Stella spoke about her fears, her insecurities, and the pressure she felt about the future. She mentioned a distant dream of becoming an artist in New York, a desire he had never taken seriously. "I'm afraid I'm not enough," she wrote, and each word resonated within him, like an echo of his own insecurities. "Sometimes I feel like life is swallowing me whole, and the only way to escape it is to follow my dream." Alexander felt a wave of pain as he realized that Stella's departure wasn't just a pursuit of personal fulfillment, but an escape from something he himself couldn't understand. Holding the letter in his hands, he found himself paralyzed, reflecting on his life, on what it really meant to love someone. The idea of following Stella's steps to New York began to take shape in his mind. He couldn't let fear keep him trapped in his comfort zone. It was time to venture out, to seek not only to regain the love he had lost, but also to discover a part of himself that had always been hidden. With a heavy heart, Alexander decided he would go after her, even if it meant facing the unknown. Alexander took a deep breath as he crossed the bustling streets of New York. The sound of cars, the murmur of people, and the smell of street food enveloped him in a vibrant cacophony. Yet he felt like an invisible spectator, lost amidst the hustle. The city's lights reflected his inner confusion, and the loneliness seemed to weigh even more heavily on his heart. "What am I doing here?" he murmured to himself as his hands trembled slightly. Acting on impulse, he decided to visit an art gallery where Stella used to exhibit her work. It was a place she always spoke about with passion, and Alexander hoped that by entering there, he could feel a little of her essence. Upon arrival, the white walls were adorned with vibrant colors and intriguing shapes. He stood still for a moment, admiring a painting that seemed to capture the very soul of the city. She really belonged to this world, he thought, his heart tightening. As he explored the gallery, a curly-haired woman approached him. "You're a friend of Stella's, aren't you?" she asked, her eyes shining with a mixture of curiosity and empathy. "I'm Julia, a friend of hers." Alexander hesitated, but the sincerity in Julia's gaze encouraged him to open up. "Yes, I am. She was important to me. I'm trying to understand her decision to stay here." Julia smiled slightly, as if she understood the weight of his words. "Stella is a talented artist. She has always had a special gift, and the city welcomed her with open arms. You know she's been making a name for herself in the art scene, don't you?" "No, I didn't know," Alexander said, surprised. "She never mentioned it. I always thought she was just trying to find her place." She was, and still is. But what you need to know is that Stella never stopped loving you. For her, this has always been part of her journey. Sometimes, We need to lose ourselves to find ourselves again, Julia explained, her voice soft. Julia's words sparked something inside him. What if I signed up for an art course? He pondered, more to himself than to Julia. Maybe that way I can better understand what she's living here. That would be a great idea, Julia responded, excited. Art is a way to connect, not just with others, but with ourselves. You might discover more about your own dreams too. Feeling inspired, Alexander decided it was time to embark on this new adventure. He needed to immerse himself in the world Stella loved, not just to win her back, but to reconnect with who he was. Thank you, Julia. You've given me a new perspective, he said, with a renewed sparkle in his eyes. As he left the gallery, a new purpose pulsed within him. Alexander was determined to explore not only the world of art, but also the depths of his own feelings, hoping that by doing so, he could finally understand and reconnect with Stella. Alexander sat in one of the chairs in the art studio, his gaze lost on a random spot on the wall. The room was full of young enthusiasts, each immersed in their own creations. That's when he saw her. Hannah, with her curly hair and a contagious smile, approached him. The sparkle in her eyes was like a beacon in the midst of his internal storm. "Hi, I see you're in your zone, but don't forget to breathe," she said, sitting next to him. "I'm Hannah, and you seem to have the weight of the world on your shoulders." Alexander hesitated, but the sincerity in her voice encouraged him to open up. "I'm Alexander. I'm trying to understand a little more about art and about myself," he confessed, his voice choked. "Understanding yourself through art is a powerful journey," commented Hannah, looking at the unfinished paintings around. "What brought you here?" He took a deep breath and told her about Stella, his wife who had left for New York in pursuit of a dream. "I never realized how much it affected her. Now I feel like I'm chasing something that's already gone." Hannah tilted her head, the expression of empathy clear on her face. "It's hard, I know, but you don't have to carry it alone. Let's explore the city together. Sometimes a new perspective can change everything." "Do you really think that might help?" Alexander asked, the doubt still evident in his voice. "Absolutely. New York is full of stories, and every corner has something to teach. Come on, I can show you some amazing places," she said, with contagious enthusiasm. The idea of exploring the city with Hannah brought a slight relief to Alexander's heart. He felt torn between what he had lost and the possibility of something new. "All right, let's go," he replied, feeling a little lighter. The two started meeting frequently. During each outing, Hannah shared her experiences as a musician, while Alexander talked about his insecurities and the dreams he never had the courage to follow. On a sunny afternoon, while walking through Central Park, Alexander felt a deeper connection with Hannah, something that left him confused. "You're an amazing person, you know that?" he said, looking at her as they walked. "But I can't help thinking about Stella. It's like I'm betraying her memory." Hannah stopped and looked into his eyes, the seriousness in her gaze palpable. "Alexander, your feelings are valid, but you can't punish yourself for feeling something good. Life is about changes and opportunities. Stella doesn't want you to stay stuck in a place that doesn't do you any good." Those words echoed in Alexander's mind. He knew it was true, but the guilt still consumed him. Even so, Hannah's presence, her vibrant energy, and understanding were beginning to offer him a new perspective on life and love. The soft morning light filtered through the windows of the studio where Alexander and Hannah met, surrounded by blank canvases and vibrant paints. Alexander, with a brush in hand, hesitated to take the next step in his painting. He looked at Hannah, who was sitting at the piano, her fingers dancing across the keys with a lightness that inspired him. "You always seem so confident when you play," commented Alexander, breaking the silence that enveloped the room. "How do you do it?" Hannah stopped, turning to him with a welcoming smile. "Music has always been my refuge. When I'm playing, I feel like everything makes sense. And you, what do you feel when you paint?" "I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm trying to find something that's always out of reach," he said, looking at the blank canvas. "As if every brushstroke is an attempt to understand what I really want to express." "Maybe you're searching for your truth," suggested Hannah, resuming to play a few soft notes. "Try letting your emotions flow into the painting. Don't worry about what others think. Do it for yourself." Her words resonated within him. Alexander took a deep breath and began applying paint to the canvas, each movement a release of repressed feelings. He lost himself in his colors and textures, and soon the images began to take shape. It was the first time he felt he was connecting not only with art, but with his own essence. After a few hours of work, Alexander finally stepped back from the canvas, admiring the piece that had emerged. It was a representation of his fears and hopes, a reflection of his journey to that point. Hannah approached, observing the painting intently. "This is incredible, Alexander. You've really captured something deep here," she praised, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "Thank you, Hannah. I couldn't have done it without your help," he replied, a shy smile on his lips. The camaraderie between them was intensifying, and Alexander realized that although he still thought of Stella, the barriers in his heart were beginning to dissolve. However, the message he had received from Stella still weighed on his mind, a shadow that wouldn't leave him in peace. What would happen if everything he was building with Hannah was interrupted by this new twist? As the afternoon turned into evening, the two decided to attend an art exhibition happening nearby. Alexander was nervous but also excited to showcase his work for the first time. He wanted to feel the reaction of the people, and somehow it represented a new phase in his life. In the gallery, the bright lights reflected off the white walls, and the murmur of conversations filled the air. Alexander stood beside his painting, observing the visitors' expressions. Some people stopped, admiring it, while others commented on the emotions the work conveyed. He felt a mix of pride and vulnerability, a step forward in his journey of self-discovery. "You're doing great, Alex," said Hannah, who was beside him, holding a glass of wine. "People really seem to connect with what you've created." "It's strange, isn't it? I never imagined I could feel something like this, especially after Stella left," he replied, looking at the canvas. "I feel like she's here with me, in every brushstroke." "That's beautiful. She will always be a part of who you are, but that doesn't mean you can't move forward," said Hannah, with an understanding look. The conversation flowed between them, and the surrounding environment seemed to disappear as the connection that had formed between them grew stronger. Alexander knew he still had a long way to go, but he felt that with Hannah's support and the strength he was beginning to discover within himself, he could face whatever came next. The cafe was filled with warm, welcoming aromas, but Alexander's heart beat to a different rhythm, marked by a mixture of anxiety and hope. He eagerly awaited Stella, the woman he loved so much and who, for months, had been distant, both physically and emotionally. When she entered, his eyes lit up, but they were soon dimmed by the reality of the situation. Stella was more radiant than ever, but there was a shadow of fragility in her smile. "Hi, are you okay?" Alexander asked, trying to break the ice. "Hi, Alex, I'm trying," Stella replied, pulling the chair and sitting down in front of him. Her eyes sought his, but there was a hesitation that didn't go unnoticed. The conversation flowed, but it was laden with contained feelings. Alexander spoke about his experiences in New York, how he had enrolled in an art course, and how her letters had inspired him. "You know, I never thought art could help me understand you," he confessed, looking into her eyes. Stella smiled, but the expression soon turned into something more serious. "Alex, I felt lost here. New York helped me discover many things about myself, but it also made me realize that I don't belong here," she revealed, holding the coffee cup with trembling hands. "So you're saying that?" The question hung in the air, and Alexander felt his chest tighten. "I'm planning to go back to my country. I feel like I need to do this to really understand who I am," Stella explained, her voice almost a whisper. "And this has nothing to do with you. It's about me." The revelation dropped like a bomb, and Alexander fought against the wave of despair that overwhelmed him. "But what about us? What does this mean for us?" he questioned, his insecurity evident in his voice. "I don't know, Alex. I wish things were simpler, but they aren't," she said, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "We've both changed. I'm not the same Stella who left, and you're not the same Alexander." He watched her, trying to understand the logic of her decision. "But you can't just leave, not after everything." I'm trying to find myself too, and I thought we could do it together." Sometimes, loving someone means letting them be free, even if it breaks your heart," Stella said, her voice full of emotion. "I just want you to know that you'll always be a part of me, no matter where I am." The conversation seemed endless, but the truth was that, as words of love and pain were exchanged, a new reality was forming between them. The future was uncertain, but there was a mutual understanding that their journeys were necessary, even if they followed separate paths. Alexander felt desolate, but at the same time, a strange strength was born within him, a desire to support Stella in her quest for freedom. Alexander walked through the streets of New York, his heart heavy after the meeting with Stella. The conversation still echoed in his mind, each word like a blow to his chest. He felt shattered, the pain of possible loss enveloping him again. When he found Hannah in a small cafe, her expression immediately changed from surprise to concern. "Alexander, you look destroyed," said Hannah, pulling up a chair beside him. "What happened?" He sighed, trying to find the words. "Stella, she decided to go back home. She said New York is no longer her place. And I don't know how to deal with it. I feel like I'm about to lose her again." Hannah looked into his eyes, her expression full of empathy. "I understand that it's painful, but you need to remember that love isn't about owning someone. True love is supporting the person you love, even if it means letting them go." Alexander shook his head, lost in his own thoughts. "But how can I let her go? She's everything to me." "Then maybe you should show her that you trust her decisions," Hannah suggested gently. "Give Stella the freedom she needs. That might be a greater act of love than you realize." Hannah's words hit him like lightning. He remembered all the insecurities Stella had exposed in her letter and how he himself had learned to value himself. It was time to put that learning into practice. During Hannah's musical performance that night, as she played on the small stage, he felt a wave of clarity. The notes of the music filled the room, and the passion Hannah put into her art touched Alexander deeply. He realized that love shouldn't be a burden, but a mutual choice of freedom and support. With this epiphany in mind, Alexander decided he needed to reconnect with Stella in a new way. At the end of the show, while the audience applauded, he sought her out. He knew there was more to be said. Upon arriving home, he found a letter in the art gallery, carefully left by Stella. As he opened it, his hands trembled as he read her words, which spoke of the desire to build a new life together, free from the fears that had separated them. With his heart racing, Alexander felt renewed. He didn't just want Stella back, but he was ready to support her on her journey. And alongside Hannah, who had become an invaluable friend, he felt stronger than ever, ready to face whatever challenges the future held. Imagine that, on an ordinary day, that special person simply leaves, leaving behind only a letter. How would you react? Have you ever wondered what you would do if a single message could completely change the course of your life? Perhaps you've gone through something similar, an unexpected farewell, an unspoken word, a secret revealed too late. But what if the pain you feel now is actually the beginning of something much bigger? Could this letter be the key to a destiny you never imagined? If you believe that love and suffering go hand in hand, but somehow there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, then you are in the right place. Take advantage and click on the video that is appearing on your screen now. This is, in my opinion, one of the best stories I've ever told, the most emotional. And if you liked what you heard now, you will undoubtedly love this other story as well. So subscribe to the channel, click on the video on your screen now, and I'll see you in a few seconds.